Foreclosures are exploding across Canada, and no one's really sounding the alarm. This isn't happening just to investors anymore. It's regular homeowners, families, people who did everything right. And the numbers we just got are completely jaw-dropping. Hi everyone, my name is Raluca MacKenzie. Thank you so much for joining me today on this video about the growing concerns in Canada's housing market and how foreclosures are growing in numbers daily. Folks, this isn't just a regular dip. It's a warning, and a lot of major banks like RBC and TD are petrified of the outcome. If you own a home or plan to, you need to hear this video. And while we're live, please drop this in the chat. Would you sell your home right now if it meant avoiding foreclosure later? Because the answers are changing very fast. Be honest, because answers might be very different than they were a year ago. All right, so let's start with the facts. So in Q1 of 2025, Ontario's mortgage delinquency rate jumped to 0.24%. That is a 71.5% spike from last year. Why? It's the renewals. People are getting hit with way higher interest rates. And suddenly, their mortgage payments just don't fit the budget anymore. And it's not just mortgages. According to Equifax, non-mortgage delinquencies in Ontario, so things like credit cards, car loans, shot up 24% year over year. That's what happens when the cost of living keeps climbing. And people borrowed too much back when rates were rock bottom. Across Canada, total consumer debt hit 2.55 trillion by the end of 2024. That's up almost 5% in just 1 year. So now we've got more debt, more missed payments, and way more pressure building in the housing market and the economy in general. In Ontario, mortgage delinquencies are up 41%. In BC, they're up 38%, and in Alberta, 32%. Now, these aren't all luxury homes or spec builds. Some of them are just starter homes, regular family homes, townhouses, condos, even homes that people bought 5, 6, 7 years ago. They're now defaulting on their mortgages. Why? I mean, it's because their monthly payments have doubled. Because of the variable rate renewals and record HELOC usage, as our economy starts to weaken and we witness more job losses, this will be added pressure to an already fragile situation. Let me explain what that means. A huge number of Canadians got into the housing market between 2017 and 2021 using variable rate mortgages. At the time, rates were 1.5, 1.9, 2.25%, maybe even 3.25%. That would have been on the higher end. You could borrow $500,000 and only pay $1,800 a month. Now, that same mortgage costs over $3,300 a month. And most of those 5-year terms are renewing this year and next. But it's not just the mortgages that are the problem. It's the home equity lines of credit, which are the HELOCs. Canadians borrowed against their homes in record numbers during the pandemic. Renovations, new cars, down payments for investment properties, you name it. And now, the average HELOC balance is over $70,000. Do the math, at 8% interest, that's another $500 to $600 a month in payments on top of your mortgage payment. This is where the foreclosure wave is starting. It's not coming from people who just bought. It's coming from the ones who bought a while ago, refinanced, and now cannot manage the monthly load. To add to the extreme increase in costs of living, and there you have it. It's just a terrible recipe. And lenders, they're sweating. I just got off the phone with a broker who said TD and RBC are quietly flagging homeowners who have missed even one payment in the last 12 months because they realize what's coming. They see the cash flow stress before the borrower ever defaults. Now, let's talk about what you're not hearing on the news. You've probably seen headlines like foreclosures on the rise, debt loads at historic levels, homeowners are being squeezed. But what no one's saying is that this is just the start. Because the Bank of Canada isn't planning major cuts this year. They might do one, maybe two small rate trims. But unless something breaks, we're staying in this high rate environment well into 2025. Which means the entire class of homeowners who bought or refinanced between 2020 and 2022 is about to get hit. Their renewals aren't staggered anymore. They are now stacked. And they're renewing into the highest interest rates in over 20 years. The ones that are in real danger, the short-term rental owners, Airbnb hosts, cottage investors, people who bought second homes with the idea that rental income would cover the mortgage. But now the short-term rentals have a lot more regulations, licensing fees, and in some areas, there's a cap on the amount of licenses that they're handing out. And then the ones who can't get a license, they're struggling. Bookings are down 25% year over year across Muskoka and the Kawartha Lakes. Think about that. If you're paying $4,000 a month on a cottage with zero rental income, this summer, that's really, really tough. And that brings us to the domino effect. Because every foreclosure that hits the market, that's a comparable sale dragging down the rest of the neighborhood. We're already seeing that in the cottage country. A cottage in Alberta listed at $899 last year just sold for $662,000. Another one in Gravenhurst dropped from $1.2 million to $875,000 and sat for 94 days before selling. That's a pretty quick 25% haircut. And that becomes a new comp. So if you're a neighborhood seller, guess what? Your value is now impacted. Now, you might be wondering, what about the cities? Well, Toronto isn't immune either. The condo market is completely flooded. Downtown units that were renting for $2,900 a month are now sitting empty at $2,300. Why? Because there's too much supply, not enough demand from renters, and these prices are still excruciating for renters. And then the buyers, they're just sitting on the sidelines. No one wants to catch a falling knife. If you're watching live, tell me in the comments, are you seeing more for sale signs in your area lately? Have you noticed more price cuts on the MLS? Because what I'm seeing across Ontario is panic selling just starting to bubble. Sellers are realizing they just can't sit and wait anymore. The longer the wait, the worse the comps get. Let's zoom out for a quick second because this isn't just about housing. It's about Canadian household debt. We're now sitting at $1.8 of debt for every dollar of disposable income. That's the worst ratio in the G7. And the pressure from that debt is what's breaking families so fast. People are taking on credit card debt just to cover their car insurance, borrowing from parents just to cover property taxes. And you know what the scariest part about all of this is? Many of these people are just regular homeowners. They're not renters, they're not unemployed. They're people who did what they were told. They bought a home, invested in real estate, maybe did some renovations, and hung on. And now they're getting crushed under the weight of higher payments. So what happens next? Here's what I think is coming. Foreclosure listings are going to rise pretty sharply this fall. Once renewals hit in September and October, we'll see a second wave. Lenders are definitely going to tighten lending criteria for everyone, not just new buyers. Even renewals will come with a stricter debt to ratio reviews. Rural and cottage markets will probably drop another 10 to 15%, and HELOC defaults will be the sleeper crisis in Canada. No one's talking about it yet, but it certainly is coming. If you're still with me, please smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm covering this story every time a new wave of data hits, and I'll keep it plain and blunt, packed with legit data. Here's what you can do right now if you're worried about your situation. If you're renewing in the next 12 months, run the numbers now. Don't wait till the last moment. Know your worst case scenario. If you've got a HELOC, stop using it immediately. Every dollar adds more stress to your debt ratio. And if you're thinking about selling, don't wait until the panic spreads. Talk to your agent early and figure out where the market actually is. I'll leave you with this. Canada doesn't have a housing bubble anymore. We have a debt bubble wrapped in denial. And until we start talking about it honestly, foreclosures are just going to keep climbing. I'll keep watching this and I'll keep reporting from what the mainstream won't. So let me know below, have you or someone you know been affected by this? Would you sell to avoid the risk? Or are you staying in and riding it out? Thanks for being here live. And if you're watching the replay, check out the links in the description for my last breakdown on how cottage collapse connects to this and what to expect if short-term rental markets keep getting stricter and harder to penetrate. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.